Hello everybody and welcome back to DTDcember, a series in which I'll be counting down my top 12 GTA villains of all time. If you want more info on this whole thing, feel free to check out my first video in this series where I explain the rules of my list. Or if you haven't seen my previous DTDcember videos and want to avoid spoilers, check out this playlist to watch every prior entry up to this point. Today, I'll be talking about my number 4 entry into this list, the Mendez brothers from Vice City Stories. Yes, I'm counting both Diego and Armando together because, while they may have differing personalities, they both represent the same force that antagonizes Vic Vance throughout most of the story. The first time we hear about these two is right after the mission From Zero to Hero, where we steal a large shipment of cocaine from Vic's former commanding officer, Jerry Martinez, when our protagonist calls him to brag about the heist, only for Martinez to tell us that the drugs belong to Vice City's most powerful kingpins, the Mendezes. Now that we've made an enemy out of them, they begin to retaliate by trying to crush our businesses. But once they see how formidable the Vances are by fending off their forces, they invite Vic and Lance to meet them at their mansion to give us the chance to work for them if we can prove that Martinez was the one who screwed them. And after we successfully frame him, our partnership with the Mendezes begins. Over the next portion of the game, we perform several missions at the orders of the Mendezes, and through these missions, we start to learn more distinguishing features about each of their personalities. Most notably, Armando is quite charismatic and composed compared to his quieter, more introverted brother. Additionally, Diego seems to be only capable of speaking Spanish, which is all the more reason to leave the speaking to Armando, as Diego is completely unwilling to converse with either Vance brother. But while Armando may speak to Vic with a collected demeanor as he feigns compassion and understanding, it's important to remember that these brothers are in their position for a reason, and it's because of how ruthless they aren't afraid to be when necessary. Whether it's by employing Vic to exterminate a startup drug enterprise in the city, or by throwing the Vances under the bus if we're unable to recover some of their cocaine from the police, the Mendezes repeatedly show that they will do whatever it takes to get their way and stay on top. After some time of working for them, the Mendezes decide that we've made back the money we owed them, and so they relinquish us of our indentured servitude. However, they also demand that upon our release from our debts, we also hand over all of the Vance crime family's assets and leave town, and in exchange, Vic, Lance, and their family will be unharmed. Of course, the Vances aren't willing to just give up their entire business, so the ruthless Mendezes escalate our summit into an execution, which the Vance brothers narrowly escape. But though our protagonists may have survived this encounter, this betrayal means we're officially at war with the Mendez cartel. Just like before when we originally robbed them, the Mendezes go after several of our businesses, forcing Vic and Lance to form a militia out of the allies we've made throughout the story to fend off our more powerful adversary. Once our businesses are locked down, we then go on the offensive by infiltrating the Mendezes mansion and destroying the brothers' bearer bonds. In retaliation, Armando has Louise, Vic's love interest, captured and threatens to kill her if the Vances don't flee the city, resulting in Vic and Lance racing across town to rescue her. Lance, being Lance of course, tries to do things his way and is subsequently captured as well, leaving just our protagonist to march through the Mendez's men in order to save them. We're ultimately confronted by Armando, who claims that Lance and Louise are already dead, and as he reveals a flamethrower, he threatens that Vic will be joining them very soon. A rather unique boss fight against him ensues, and after we kill him, Vic rushes upstairs to find Lance and Louise, as the latter of which bleeds out. With the love of his life gone and the Mendez cartel at fault, Vic no longer cares about business. He no longer cares about anybody's drug empires. All he wants to do is take revenge on the men who have cost him everything, starting with Diego Mendez. So after stealing an attack helicopter from his old military base, Vic flies to Diego's last known location and attacks the building with the chopper until he's shot down, at which point he lands and storms each floor until he finds Diego. We then chase him back up to the rooftop, where we're met by our other antagonist, Jerry Martinez. And as Diego reemerges, all three men engage in a final battle from which Vic ultimately emerges victorious. Now that Martinez and the Mendez brothers are history, Lance arrives for one last dialogue before our pair of brothers fly off into the sunset, concluding the 3D era on a high note. But as much of a feel-good moment as it was to see our protagonist prevail over his enemies, we have to remember what his enemies spent the whole game putting him through. Though they don't appear until we make it through a good chunk of the story, the Mendezes do a great job at representing the final obstacle that Vic and Lance are going to have to overcome in order to live relatively safe and comfortable lives in Vice City. Throughout the first half of the game, we encounter plenty of antagonists who we either overcome or force onto the retreat as our protagonist becomes progressively more powerful, be it Marty J. Williams, Brian Forbes, or Jerry Martinez. As Vic's empire starts to grow, he becomes more capable of eliminating these threats and even becomes comfortable enough to challenge Martinez. However, when we run into the Mendezes, it appears that we finally met our match, as these brothers make it clear that they're not men to be fucked with. And so, our protagonist wisely doesn't try to fuck with them until he's forced to. However, while most of the other villains I've talked about, like Massimo Torrini, Catalina, and Devin Weston, don't leave any real lasting impact on our protagonist after they're dead and gone, the war with the Mendez cartel costs Vic the woman he loves. And after watching Louise die right in front of Vic, I personally couldn't wait to get my hands on Diego Mendez and put an end to that fucking bastard for what he and his brother had done. It's not often that a video game can evoke emotion out of me, but Vice City Stories did just that by making the Mendez brothers as despicable villains as they are. So for those reasons, they'll earn the number 4 spot on my list of the top 12 GTA villains of all time. But But what do you think? Do you agree that they've earned that rank, or do you feel that they should have been placed higher or lower on this list? And how are you liking DTDcember so far? Let me know in the comments, and if you've enjoyed this series so far, feel free to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so that you'll be notified this Saturday when I return with the number 3 entry for this list. We're in the end game now, lads, but until then, I hope you each have a blessed few days, and I'll see you all soon. This is your boy Dog6, and I am signing off.